Hello, my name is Larry Charles, and today I'll be discussing the case about Pedro. Okay, when I critically looked at the Pedro case, I realized that Pedro is a disturbed man. First, we can realize that the family of Pedro has a lot of hope with him. Most probably, they are looking upon him to be a good role model to his siblings. Unfortunately, as a result of things that he is going through, there is no hope that he will actually be a good role model. Secondly, he was a soldier. He had witnessed so many traumatic ordeals, especially while engaged in the combat war in Iraq. Worse was when he escaped death after passing through an improvised explosive device. In fact, from the incident, Pedro suffered from internal head injury. Moreover, Pedro is made to resign from the service he has he had been offering, a case which makes him more upset and stressed. Another thing that is disturbing with Pedro is that in the new job that he is offered, the owner keeps on complaining that he doesn't give good services. All things good I'm sorry, all these things make him upset, and that is the reason why he has turned out to be a drunk. Pedro's disturbance is caused by the fact that he has lost touch with his family members, considering that he is also single. We should know that the family members are important because they give people affection and console a person in the occasion when one is disturbed or emotionally or physically disturbed. Having analyzed the scenario, it suffices that Pedro has adopted the drinking habit in order to relieve himself from these essential ordeals. In fact, it is clear that in certain occasion he keeps on remembering those experiences that he witnessed in the war. Since the alcohol assessment measures had confirmed that Pedro suffers from alcohol dependence disorder, the doctor's recommendation that he needs to go for an inpatient counseling session would bear fruits. However, the counseling plan should be aimed at helping him to stop the drinking behavior completely. This is because the drinking behavior has proved to be very detrimental to his life. Therefore, for the counselor to ensure that Pedro gets help from the session, several treatment strategies should be adopted. One of the treatment plans would be a brief intervention strategy. A brief intervention strategy is a kind of intervention, is a kind of a drug intervention that aims at looking at the problem which causes individuals to engage in drug abuse. For our case, Pedro has been abusing alcohol, which has been confirmed through various tests. Therefore, during the session, the counselor should try to examine the various problems which might have made Pedro to be a drug dependent individual. In order to get this information, the counselor should ensure he employs good listening skills. He is also supposed to give Pedro some advice on how he can stop abusing drugs. While advising Pedro, he should first try to ask him all the benefits of drinking alcohol. After that, the negatives of abusing alcohol should be highlighted so as to give a comparison between the pros and the cons of the latter. Secondly, he should make Pedro aware that the efforts to stop alcohol abuse lies to him and not anybody else. Therefore, he should be ready to work for change. All these awarenesses and advices will make Pedro be concerned about the problem that he has. Another intervention strategy that will help Pedro is an extended intervention strategy. In this intervention strategy, Pedro should go through about 10 sessions together with his group mates. In these sessions, the counselor should offer some motivational speeches about why these alcoholics should stop abusing alcohol. He should highlight the possible problems that are like to affect their lives and their families. Moreover, the counselor should give examples of drunken victims who have managed to stop alcohol abuse. Also, he should try to bring out a picture of how the life of these people have changed from the time they stop abusing drugs. In addition to that, he should try to help Pedro and his teammates on handling stressful situations, and put clear that drinking alcohol does not end the problems, but rather heighten the problems. Finally, if Pedro will accept to go for the inpatient session, the counselor should use the relapse intervention in order to make sure that Pedro is helped from this problem once and for all. In the relapse prevention intervention, the patient should be helped in such a way that he cannot be tempted to take alcohol again. The victim should therefore have an account for the people who they interact with, the things which trigger their emotions, and also how they uh, cope with the emotional impulses that might come on their way. For the case of Pedro, he should be warned about more factors that might affect him in case he continues taking alcohol. For instance, he should be made aware of the health hazards associated with alcohol abuse. Under this intervention program, Pedro should be guided in forming an anonymous group who he will meet with during the time when he goes to abuse alcohol. Apart from the anonymous groups, the counselor should advise Pedro on other ways in which he should utilize his leisure time. Alternatives would be joining the dance club or other recreational clubs, which might engage his mind from remembering stressful situations. In addition, the counselor ought to create an index card for Pedro. The index card should contain such details as the names and the contacts of those people that Pedro should call in case he feels the desire to take alcohol, and the contact information of his family members who are supportive. It should also contain the details of what Pedro should be doing during his free time, such as taking part in social activities and other physical exercises such as gymnastics. Finally, the relapse intervention would also involve helping Pedro to avoid the vulnerable areas where he could slip back into alcohol use. Furthermore, the counselor should take care of the social cultural considerations which might be driving Pedro to continue alcohol. Such cultures include the notion that all those people who work in the armed forces should take alcohol as a form of refreshment and way of relaxing their mind. The counselor should try to clear that notion from the mind of Pedro. Other cross cultural considerations would be such other cultural practices that would entice Pedro to engage in alcoholism. That means he should try to consult with Pedro whether he hails from such kind of cultures which people must drink during celebrations and social functions such as weddings and dowries. In this case, the counselor should help Pedro appropriately to prevent him from slipping back into alcoholism. Thank you for your time. That was my speech on the case of Pedro.